Okay, thank you very much. I think we can start this press conference. The press conference after the last round of talks with the Council on the next multi-annual financial framework and reform of own resources. Thank you all for joining us on your screens and here in the room. I welcome the negotiating team of the Parliament, Mr. Johan van Overtveld, who is the chair of the Committee on Budgets, for the MFF, Mr. Olbricht and Mrs. Marques, for the own resources, Mr. Fernandes and Mrs. Ayer, and for the horizontal issues, Mr. Andresen. If you are connected via Interactio, you can raise your hand electronically, and if you get the floor, push the speak button. Please be aware that there is no interpretation. And state your name and media and who you would like to address your question to. The chair, Mr. van Overtveld, will give a short introductory statement, and then we open the floor for questions. Mr. van Overtveld, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to this press conference. Let me first of all take you back in time a little bit and to somewhere in the, I think, second week of September, where we heard from members of the Council that the Parliament had till the end of September to do a deal and that we could count on something like 100 million for the programs. That was the message, and that was a message that we took to heart, not because of the Parliament's sake itself, but because of what we want or what the citizens of Europe want. And that's why we have been fighting very hard, very relentlessly in the past 10 weeks to ensure that we reach a positive agreement, both for the short term and the long term. We've been thinking very hard about the longer term over the past weeks, even months. And this for Europe to have the means to address more the short-term issue, the COVID-19 pandemic, and to support the recovery and resilience of our society over the coming period, and that is in terms of years. We secured 16 billion euros on top of the package agreed upon by the heads of state in July. 15 billion will reinforce the key flagship programs on which Madam Marques and Mr. Olbricht will tell you anything you want to know about it. And these flagship programs are, of course, at the heart of the European citizens' concerns and are at the heart of the added value that Europe can bring to the economy and to its citizens. Concretely, European Parliament triples the envelope of the health programme. We secured the equivalent to an additional year of financing for Erasmus Plus to support the young generation. And we ensure that research funding keeps increasing in crucial areas like the digital, climate and health. This is, of course, all very crucial. On the revenue side, we secured the principle that the medium to long-term repayment costs of Next Generation EU will be covered by the introduction of new own resources, a field on which Madame Ayer and Mr. Fernandes have been fighting very hard. This is crucial to ensure the debt burden will not be supported by the taxpayers and will not reduce in the future union programs. We also strengthened the Parliament's role over the use of the Next Generation EU funds. This is, of course, essential in terms of democratic accountability. And also, next time an instrument is created, we made sure that there will be specific budgetary scrutiny procedure to involve the Parliament early on. 30% of the MFF in the Next Generation EU will support climate objectives. That's an item where Mr. Andresen fought very hard. We confirmed this key target to be agreed by the heads of state and government, while adding strong provisions on biodiversity and gender mainstreaming. Now, I mentioned each of the team players individually, but I am really proud to be able to say that we fought, all six of us, as a team. The term fight you can take literally. We really had to fight for what we got, and we are all, I am certainly, but I am absolutely sure about my 5 colleagues too, that we are all very proud of what we achieved. Again, not for the Parliament's pride, but in the interest of the European citizens, short term and long term. That's as far as my introduction goes, I can imagine that you have questions. And like I said, on the programs, on the MFF specifically, it's Madame Marques and Mr. Olbricht. On the new own resources and everything linked to that, it's Mr. Fernandez and Madame Ayer. And on the what we call the horizontal issue, climate, gender, mainstreaming and biodiversity, is Mr. Anderson. But of course, it's I think for all clarity, if you ask a question, please be explicit to say first of all whom you are and to whom you would like to address the question. The floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. So the floor is open for questions. I look at the screen. I give you some time to find the button. Yes, so we have a first question by Riyad Bahri. Can we please put her on?
That's Belgian television.
Mm-hmm. That's for you.
Oh. It's Belgian television.
You need the earpiece.
Okay, sorry.
I don't have. Do you hear anything? Something?
Mm.
No? You can't hear anything?
Mrs. Bahri,
It's Mr.
can you hear us? You need to push the speak button, please.
No. You know everything except the question. Maybe not even the answer.
Yes,
Okay.
There he is.
Yes, it's a question for Mr. Van Overtveld. Ik ga ze in Nederlands stellen, meneer Van Overtveld, voor VRT. Kan u gewoon eens uitleggen waarom dit akkoord dat vandaag is goedgekeurd door jullie, waarom het een goed akkoord is en wat u er zo belangrijk aan vindt?
Wel, wat het belangrijkste is aan dit programma is dat we een belangrijke correctie hebben kunnen aanbrengen op de beslissing van de regeringshoofden in juli. De hele trein van beslissingen, u herinnert zich dat, 5 dagen en 4 nachten, die toen genomen zijn, had bij nader toezien een enorme impact, niet zozeer op korte termijn, maar vooral op lange termijn, op wat we de flagship programs van Europa noemen, Horizon, Erasmus, InvestEU en dergelijke meer. En van in het begin heeft dat onze hoofddoelstelling geweest dat we daar een stuk correctie wouden in aanbrengen. Dat hebben we ook gedaan. We hebben 16 miljard extra voor die diverse programma's nu uit de brand gesleept. En dat is denk ik iets waar niemand had op gerekend, dat we tot dat bedrag zouden komen. Dus dat is voor mij de grote realisatie. Een tweede belangrijke realisatie betreft het feit dat we hebben kunnen securiseren, dat er voldoende middelen beschikbaar zullen zijn om de terugbetaling van de schuld die aangegaan wordt, de 750 miljard voor de coronafaciliteit, dat die kan betaald worden, kan terugbetaald worden, zonder dat er moet ingeteerd worden opnieuw op die programma's. Dat zijn voor mij de 2 grote verdiensten van het werk dat we de voorbije weken geleverd hebben.
Thank you very much. The next one in line is Jean Comte. Jean, if you can press the speak button and then we will put you online.
Oui, bonjour, Jean Comte de Contexte. Ma question est sans doute proche de la question précédente, je m'excuse si c'est trop répétitif, mais je suis un peu perdu sur la question des intérêts du plan de relance. Si j'ai bien compris, ils vont donc rester sous les plafonds, comme le voulait le Conseil à la base. Quelles assurances avez-vous eues que ni dans ce MFF ni dans le prochain, ces paiements prendront tellement d'importance que l'entièreté du MFF sera dévolue à ça?
Merci. Très rapidement, c'est vrai, les intérêts sont dans les plafonds, ça veut dire sous les plafonds. Le paiement de la dette va être comme le Conseil le souhaitait. Mais on a protégé le futur. On a une déclaration commune des institutions qui dit que les nouvelles ressources propres doivent être suffisantes pour payer la dette, avec l'objectif de ne pas réduire les programmes et les fonds. Cela veut dire, et c'est une chose qui est claire, c'est implicite, qu'on ne peut pas accepter que la dette puisse, dans le futur, couper les programmes et les fonds, ou alors réduire le budget après 2027. On a aussi dans cette déclaration que ce qui est arrivé et accordé maintenant ne préjuge pas ce qu'on va faire dans le prochain cadre financier pluriannuel. D'ailleurs, dans l'accord interinstitutionnel qui est contraignant et où on a mis les ressources propres, on a la même formulation, ça veut dire on a besoin et on s'est engagé à avoir des nouvelles ressources propres avec ce principe que le Conseil a accepté. L'objectif de ressources propres, le panier, être suffisant pour payer la dette et en même temps ce panier de ressources propres a l'objectif de ne pas réduire les programmes et les fonds. Et ces nouvelles ressources propres vont être appliquées pour le prochain cadre financier pluriannuel. Avec cet objectif, cela veut dire qu'on a protégé le paiement de la dette, on a protégé le futur pour que ce ne soit pas ni les citoyens à être chargés avec des nouveaux impôts, ni les programmes doivent être coupés. Merci.
Thank you very much. The next one in line is Griselda Pastor. If you press the speak button, please, and we put you online. Please be reminded that we have no interpretation.
Beaucoup. Oui, allô?
Yes, we hear you.
J'espère que vous m'entendez. Merci, oui. Donc j'ai une double question. C'est Griselda Pastor de la radio espagnole SER. Vous avez un confrère en grève de la faim en train d'exiger, demander qu'il y ait l'impôt sur les transactions financières. Est-ce que vous pouvez lui dire aujourd'hui de stopper son action? Ça, c'est ma première question. Et excusez-moi pour Madame Marquez, en tant que représentante du groupe social-démocrate, mais aussi d'un pays du Sud vraiment touché par la crise, j'aimerais savoir, est-ce que vous croyez que la tension qui a duré toute cette semaine valait le coup, étant donné les résultats, du point de vue de risque du blocage, de retard sur l'entrée en vigueur des fonds? Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Bonjour. Merci de votre question. Donc, je pense que vous connaissez bien la situation au Portugal, la situation en Espagne et la situation aujourd'hui dans presque tous les pays de l'Union européenne. Pour nous, c'était clair. Nous avions un mandat tel que le président du comité des budgets l'a rappelé au début. Et notre objectif a été, depuis le début, d'augmenter les programmes européens, augmenter les enveloppes financières des programmes européens, parce que finalement, pour l'accord de juillet, qui a payé la facture, ça a été exactement les programmes européens. Et notre objectif, c'était de défendre le futur de l'Union européenne, le futur budget de l'Union européenne. L'effort de cette semaine, bien évidemment, ça a mérité la peine. Nous connaissons exactement la complexité de tout le paquet. Nous avons le fonds de relance, nous avons le MFF, le cadre financier pluriannuel, et le fonds de relance est appuyé sur le cadre financier pluriannuel. Nous avons le mécanisme État de droit. Nous voulons, et nous l'avons eu, on va voter en plénière, mais déjà il y a un accord politique sur la création d'un instrument État de droit dans le sens de protéger le budget de l'Union européenne. Et il faut encore discuter comment le fonds de relance va être utilisé par les États membres. Et c'est dans cette complexité qu'on a travaillé. Notre mandat, c'était de faire un accord sur le cadre financier pluriannuel. On a fait tous les efforts pour arriver à un accord et arriver à un bon accord. Aujourd'hui, on est arrivé à ce bon accord. Oui, on a fait tous les efforts nécessaires. Le problème qui se pose par après, c'est la totalité du paquet. Mais le Parlement européen est complètement engagé pour avoir et construire et créer des conditions pour construire et pour donner suite à la réponse européenne qui a été accordée au Conseil européen de juillet. Parce que les citoyens connaissent exactement quelle est la réponse européenne du mois de juillet, mais ils attendent que la réponse européenne arrive aux États membres. C'est pour cela que le Parlement européen est très mobilisé. Nous l'avons fait, notre mandat. Je pense qu'on a réussi dans notre mandat. Et maintenant, au-delà du cadre financier pluriannuel, le Parlement européen est très mobilisé pour faire les votes et pour prendre les décisions nécessaires dans le temps le plus limité pour que la réponse européenne arrive aux citoyens. Et ce n'est pas seulement pour les pays du Sud, bien évidemment, mais tous les États membres de l'Union européenne bénéficient du fonds de relance et aussi des programmes européens. Les programmes européens sont justement ceux qui donnent à l'Union européenne une valeur ajoutée et qui peuvent contribuer au futur de l'Union européenne.
Sur la partie ressources propres, et je vais répondre à votre question sur la taxe sur les transactions financières, mais d'abord, je voudrais profiter de cette question pour rappeler une position de longue date du Parlement européen. Le Parlement européen défend un panier de nouvelles ressources propres. Et dans ce panier, il y a effectivement la taxe sur les transactions financières. Mais je veux vous rappeler la liste de ce panier et de ces 6 nouvelles ressources propres que défend le Parlement européen et qui sont aujourd'hui dans l'accord qui a été convenu politiquement. La contribution plastique, dont on sait qu'elle sera à l'ordre entrée en vigueur au 1er janvier 2021, mais aussi le mécanisme d'ajustement carbone aux frontières, la taxe sur les géants du numérique, le système d'échange de quotas d'émissions de gaz à effet de serre, la taxe sur les transactions financières et l'assiette commune consolidée sur l'impôt sur les sociétés. Toutes ces nouvelles ressources propres, elles ont une double vocation. La première, et on l'a dit, c'est de rembourser ce plan de relance. Parce que la relance, elle doit être non pas payée par les citoyens européens, mais par ceux qui ne paient pas leur juste part d'impôt aujourd'hui. Par exemple, les géants du numérique, dont on sait qu'ils sortent gagnants de la crise et qui, par ailleurs, paient 2 fois moins d'impôts en Europe que les entreprises traditionnelles. Cette relance, elle doit être payée par les institutions financières qui spéculent. Elle doit être payée par les entreprises non européennes qui polluent. Ça, c'est la ligne de conduite du Parlement européen. Première raison de mettre en place des nouvelles ressources propres. Deuxième raison de mettre en place des nouvelles ressources propres, et je l'ai un peu indiqué dans mes propos précédents, c'est de ramener de la justice fiscale. C'est d'avoir du lien entre le budget et la valeur ajoutée des politiques publiques européennes. Il y a les ressources propres vertes et les ressources propres en lien avec le marché intérieur. La taxe sur les transactions financières, elle a fait l'objet, comme les autres, de discussions âpres avec la présidence allemande et nous avons réussi à tomber sur un accord qui est que la Commission fera une proposition en 2024 sur la taxe sur les transactions financières. Le Conseil devra en délibérer en 2025 en vue d'une introduction en 2026. Et par ailleurs, la Commission s'est engagée au cas où les discussions aujourd'hui sous coopération renforcée, qui sont en cours sur la taxe sur les transactions financières, au cas où elles aboutiraient d'ici à 2022, à transformer immédiatement, à faire une proposition pour que les recettes issues de ce mécanisme deviennent immédiatement ressources propres. Et ça, c'est nouveau également, parce que jusqu'à présent, ça n'avait jamais été mis sur la table des discussions dans le cadre de la coopération renforcée, puisque la taxe sur les transactions financières devait simplement alimenter les budgets nationaux et en aucun cas devenir une nouvelle ressource propre. C'est une étape clé, une étape supplémentaire, je dirais, dans la construction européenne. L'accord qu'on a conclu aujourd'hui avec les différentes ressources propres, il est historique, il permet de graver dans le marbre une étape supplémentaire dans la construction européenne, indispensable. On marque un pas énorme dans l'affirmation de l'Union européenne et dans l'autonomie budgétaire européenne.
Merci, thank you very much. I have Mrs. Bea Bacco in the waiting line. Mrs. Bacco, can you press your speak button? Can you press your speak button, please, Mrs. Bacco?
I'm pressing it.
Okay. Okay, now we hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I am journalist from Hungarian news site Azonnali, and my question is addressed to Mr. Van Overveld or anyone who can answer. Both the Polish and the Hungarian prime ministers threatened with veto of the MFF and of the COVID recovery package because of it was announced last week that there was an agreement on the rule of law conditionality to protect the EU's budget. So my question is, how will you deal with that? And is it possible that the significant changes to the MFF will be adopted at this stage, or is it more probable to change the rule of law conditionality, or how will you find a compromise, and then how long could it be delayed in this situation?
I would be very glad to answer your question, but the answer of Mr. Olbrycht will be much more interesting. Jan.
Yes, thank you. Let me begin with one remark. When we, in our political agreement, we are not speaking about 16 billions only. We are speaking about the whole amount of money for the whole Europe. So it means that we are speaking about the cohesion policy, about the agriculture policy, about the all the programs concerning the Green Deal, etc. This is, I think, we should remind it that this agreement is about the whole MFF, I mean, multi-annual financial framework. I think that this is the weight of what we managed was to reduce the cuts made by the Council significantly. So I think that we should remind it. It's important to answer your question. By the way, your question should be addressed to the Council. It's not the problem of the Parliament today, because as we know, what we received as information, that there is a danger of blocking MFF, what we were just agreed, and the fund. It means that, but this is linked to the rule of law, linked to the financial interests of EU. So, the procedure, I would like to remind you, there is an agreement between Parliament and the Council on the rule of law procedure. This political agreement now it goes to the Council. So the Council should vote it. The Council should vote it with a qualified majority, not unanimity. So in fact, the question is how these countries you mentioned, including mine, will behave during the voting on the rule of law in the Council. Because in the Parliament we will vote the same elements, but in the Parliament there are no doubts it will be accepted. The question, what about the procedure in the Council? What we heard from the ambassador from German presidency, probably the first voting will be next week. So if the rule of law procedure and regulation is accepted by the Council and accepted by the Parliament, it will just enter into force. It will be legal act for future. Now, the question, how will this government behave in terms of MFF? What we just said, this is unanimity in the Council, unanimity. So I think that this is the question, if anybody wants to block it, not the 16, block it, the whole MFF for the whole Europe for 7 years. If you ask us, does it have any influence on our political agreement, I must say probably on behalf of my colleagues, no. No, we made our political agreement with the Council. So for us, it's over. So it means that now we will have to vote it once the Council, of course, agrees. Legally, it will be, we will vote first, and next they will confirm it in unanimity. As far as concerns the rule of law, the recovery fund, this is necessary to have the decision to change the ceiling of the own resources. And this decision is not yet made inside the Council. So we hope, and we repeat it all the time, that we hope that this decision will be made very quickly, because this decision is necessary to start ratification in all the national parliaments. We need this fund. And of course, the warning coming from two countries is that these countries are ready to block budget and fund. To say they, as a Polish member of the parliament, I must say I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine that it can happen, because this is the money for the whole Europe. So I think that this is something that I can only say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have now a question by Susanna Fraxes. Can you please press the speak button? Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So I would like to ask a few questions. So first of all, if I understand correctly, the only fresh money here are the 11 billion from the competition fines. So I would like to ask you, do you think this is enough? And are you happy with this? Because in the beginning, if I remember correctly, you're asking the money from the competition fines plus the 12.9 from the interest rates, putting them outside of the ceilings. And secondly, since that in the end you gave up on the ceilings, was it worthy to push this far and to somehow waste this time in order to reach an agreement? And when actually do you expect the budget, the MFF, and the recovery fund to be in place? Of course, we know there is this situation with Hungary, but even if there is unanimity at the Council, is this possible to have the MFF in the 1st of January and the recovery fund, I don't know, in February or something? Thank you.
Thank you. If I will do the same that the chair, I can answer in Portuguese, but it's not the case. So for the first question, it's clear that it's not 11 for fresh money, is 13.5. But this is not the point. This is the first time that the European Parliament can increase the ceilings agreed by European Council. And this is very important for the future of the budget. And why? Because since the beginning, we said that we will need money to increase the financial envelopes for programs. And it's why we took so many time, because we needed to reach this agreement with fresh money. And it's exactly what we did. And now we are very happy with the conclusion, because it's the way to increase the financial envelopes. It's the way to protect the European Union budget for the future. Concerning calendar, first of all, we are waiting for the decision of the Conference of Presidents tomorrow on the agenda of the next plenary session. What can we put in the agenda in the next plenary sessions, European plenary sessions, to vote in plenary the different instruments that we already agreed. It means MFF and the rule of law mechanism. Our commitment is since the beginning that MFF must start 1st January 2021. And we need to avoid a gap between the end of this, of the current MFF and the next MFF. Second point on the Recovery and Resilience Facility. As I think that my colleague Ian Albridge already said, first of all, yesterday we voted in the Budget and Econ Committee the RRF regulation, Recovery and Resilience Facility regulation. So we are doing our job. We are waiting from the Council to launch the national ratification procedure by national parliaments. As we understood this afternoon from the presidency will put on the table this decision as soon as possible. So it will take some months, but it means that maybe only next spring or something like this we can have the adoption, the vote by national parliaments, because almost all the national parliaments must ratify this decision, and only after this procedure Commission can go to financial markets to create the next generation EU. So this is later than our ambition in the beginning, because, as I said, the European answer must arrive to citizens as soon as possible. But there are a point that we need to remember, is all the expenses expenditure made on health and the pandemic impact can be covered since 1st February 2020. So it's one possibility. I know that it's completely different to pay the expenses than to have concrete projects for the economic and social recovery, but quand même, we have the possibility to cover this period of time. But to finalize, I'd like to remember that the Parliament is completely committed to have all the instruments as soon as possible.
En français, très rapidement, on s'est battu pour mettre les intérêts hors du budget. Je l'ai fait d'une façon particulière. Maintenant, c'est 0,01% du budget. Après 2027, dans le prochain cadre financier pluriannuel, ça va être 10% du budget. C'est à cause de cela qu'on a réussi quand même à avoir les intérêts et le paiement de la dette. Bien sûr, ça va être 10% du budget. C'est à cause de ça qu'on a la déclaration, qu'on a besoin des nouvelles ressources propres. On peut faire la question. On a perdu du temps. Non, on a soulevé la question. Et on n'a pas perdu du temps, on s'est battu par un principe. On n'a pas perdu du temps non plus. Parce qu'au début, le Conseil voudrait donner 0. Et quand même, on a 16 milliards d'euros. Maintenant, on a donné notre opinion pour la décision ressources propres. On a un accord politique pour the rule of law. On a un accord politique pour le MFF. C'est fini les excuses du Conseil. C'est fini. Et maintenant, les citoyens et vous allez voir clair qui retarde les choses. Parce que nous, au Parlement, la décision qui permet la Commission à aller au marché, qu'on appelle décision ressources propres. On a décidé en 16 de septembre. Le Conseil n'a pas encore décidé. Il doit décider par unanimité. C'est la décision qui prend du temps, parce qu'on a besoin de la ratification des parlements nationaux. Et maintenant on dit, c'est quand qu'on va avoir le fonds de relance? Quand le Conseil veut l'avoir. Parce qu'il n'a même pas commencé avec le processus. Nous, on est à temps en tout. On pourrait même décider le cadre financier la prochaine semaine. On n'aurait pas de problème pour l'accord politique. On va encore donner le consentement. On n'a jamais retardé rien. Mais le Conseil n'a pas encore décidé une chose qui est cruciale pour l'Union européenne. La décision ressources propres qui permet à la Commission d'aller au marché chercher les 750 milliards. À partir d'aujourd'hui, toutes les excuses du Conseil sont finis. On va voir combien de temps il va encore perdre.
Thank you very much. There is another question by Jean Comte. Jean, you can press the speak button. Jean, can you press it again?
Oui. Est-ce que c'est bon comme ça?
Yes. Now we see you and hear you. Yes.
Okay. Hi again. It's a more general question, but I would like to know, according to you, which points of this agreement can make a difference in the EU budget after 2027? Is there anything in this agreement that is creating a precedent that could impact the way the MFF is structured?
No.
The way the next MFF will be structured?
Well, there's a lot that can be said on that question, but I think like some of my colleagues already indicated, we have put in a lot of, how should I say, walls for things that cannot happen in the past. For example, we negotiated that what happened now with respect to the interest cost and the whole NGU financing cannot be a prejudice for next time. What we also did was to have an assurance that if, for example, the interest rates raise above what is estimated to be the case today, that there is also an automatic trigger of a compensation mechanism, which again is a kind of protection. And most of all, it's of course not only, but I think quite important, is what we got as support, extra support for the programs. I think a program like Horizon, like Erasmus, like EU InvestEU, and of course now the EU for Health program are very important. These are really the programs where there is added value to what Europe can do, even for large countries like Germany and France. Europe has added value at that level. And if we had let things go as the Council had initiated it, these programs would have watered down. And of course that would have had an enormous impact on this MFF, but certainly also on the following one. So if there are a lot of things we can claim for ourselves. I'm very humble about that, but also very proud of that. But I think the fact that we really took the long-term view and dare to speak out about it has really been the thing with which we have made a difference in these long discussions. And as the former speaker suggested, no, Mr. Fernandez was very right in saying we did not lose time. We fought battles on principle. Some we won, some we lost. We will admit that. But that we did the battle and laid out our arguments and often didn't get a satisfactory reply, far from it. That's the thing what it was really about for us the past 10 weeks. And if we look tired, it's because we are a little bit tired.
Of course. Tu veux aussi? Jean, en français. Bonjour, c'est Valérie. En complément de ce qu'a dit M. Van Overtveld, ce qui est absolument structurant, à mon sens, aussi pour l'avenir de l'Union européenne, ce sont les ressources propres. C'est un dossier absolument structurant et intrinsèquement pour l'avenir de l'Union européenne. C'est un cheval de bataille de longue date du Parlement européen. Et pourquoi? Parce que depuis des années, beaucoup trop, depuis 32 ans, il n'y a pas eu de réforme du système des ressources propres de l'Union européenne. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle, aussi, tous les 7 ans, on voit les chefs d'État et de gouvernement s'écharper, s'échanger des noms d'oiseaux au moment des discussions budgétaires. Pourquoi? Parce que chacun, y compris les plus pro-européens, arrive à la table des négociations en ayant ses contraintes budgétaires nationales. Demain, avec des ressources propres, ça permettra de mettre de côté ces contraintes budgétaires et de se concentrer vraiment sur l'avenir de l'Union européenne, sur un projet structurant pour l'avenir de l'Union européenne et sur quels objectifs, quelles ambitions, quels projets on porte pour l'Union européenne. Et donc ça, c'est l'esprit même des nouvelles ressources propres. On l'a acté dans la négociation difficile qu'on a menée avec des dates de proposition par la Commission, des dates de vote au Conseil et des dates d'introduction d'introduction pour chacune de ces nouvelles ressources propres que je vous ai citées tout à l'heure. Et puis, dans ce qu'on a négocié aussi, on a négocié le fait que, ça a été dit déjà par José Manuel, mais je le rappelle, et c'est absolument structurant pour l'avenir. On a négocié le fait que les recettes des ressources propres permettent de couvrir la charge de l'emprunt. Mais pas que. On a négocié que la charge de l'emprunt, que les programmes soient préservés. Mais pas que, là encore. On a aussi négocié que le surplus des ressources propres restera dans le budget. Et ça, pour l'avenir, c'est absolument structurant parce que les États membres ne pourront pas dire « Ah bah, on a des recettes qui sont supérieures à la charge de l'emprunt et donc on va réutiliser ces ressources pour baisser, par exemple, nos contributions nationales. » Là encore, on change de logique, on change de paradigme et on va sortir de l'Europe intergouvernementale. Donc oui, c'est absolument structurant pour l'avenir.
Yes. Thank you. I mean, this MFF or package is different than maybe 6 years ago, or maybe also the next MFF will be because of the package and because of the impact also related to the COVID crisis and related to some of the issues the colleagues already mentioned. I would here mention the climate targets, and we also agreed on, as the chair mentioned in the beginning, agreed on the biodiversity target where we still have to develop the methodology for the next years, but first time in history of the European budget, not just 30% of the budget will be spent for climate projects. There will also be a clear target for biodiversity, and this is something where I think we can say that the investments we are doing in the next years related to biodiversity and to climate will be ones we will provide and future generations will benefit from for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 or 50 years. And on the other side, if we won't do that now, then the problems would be even bigger. And my feeling is, but of course this has to be negotiated of our colleagues in the next MFF, my feeling is that the biodiversity spending target or the climate target is here to stay and will also be part of European budget politics for the next years. And this is of course something very important where I think we really need to see some action now from the Commission at least, but also in collaboration with the Parliament and the Council.
Thank you very much. There is another question by Tiago Varzim. Please press the speak button.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My first question is about expenditure ceilings. As I understood in the previous questions, you said that there was an increase, but in the German presidency press release, it says that it respects the expenditure ceilings set out by the European Council. I was wondering if you could explain to me how is this consistent with one another. Also, the second question, if I understood correctly, you are expecting that the national parliaments will only ratify this agreement by the spring. Does this mean that countries will only see these funds in the end of next year? And last question about the new own resources. Is this years of implementation legally binding, or member states can retreat from this agreement if they approve it, of course, in the European Council? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tiago, for your questions. First of all, concerning ceilings, effectively, there are an increasing of the financial envelopes of the programs, and fines were not in the EUCO proposal because normally the money for fines the money coming from fines go directly to member states before. And now what we can mobilize is part of this money will remain in the European budget oriented directly to the programs. And this is important because it's not only a declaration or an intention. It's clear to which program the money will be allocated. And it's programs like Horizon, like Erasmus, like Creative Europe, like humanitarian aid, like rights and values and others, and first of all to health. Well, now we decided to tripling the health program because, as we can understand, is the most important in the moment. So, concerning the calendar, effectively is a challenge point, and we are working to finalize the exercise, and my colleagues already explained before that if the Parliament is doing and is delivering on time, the point is the ratification from national parliaments. But I wish that the money will arrive to the Member States before the end of next year.
Yes, just very shortly, is there any contradiction between what the German presidency is saying and our approach? What Madame Margaret said, I just said, of course, the ceilings have been agreed in the European Council decision, the European Council, so it's not changed. But during this 7 years period, there will be fines, which will be the external, like the revenue which is coming to the budget, and next we will use it. So the agreement is not to change the ceilings from the beginning, but to reinforce the programs anyway from the other sources. So I think this is the kind of agreement I got. So the German presidency is saying absolutely true, and we are also have the right in saying that we will reinforce, and they agreed. Thank you.
Très rapidement, j'espère qu'on ne va pas sortir d'ici avec l'idée qu'on a réussi un budget de 16 milliards d'euros. Parce qu'on a réussi un budget que le Conseil avait accordé et qu'on a additionné 16 milliards d'euros. Et on l'additionne pour une période de 2021 à 2027. Sur la question ressources propres, oui, elles sont, l'accord est dans l'accord interinstitutionnel. C'est contraignant. On a un accord contraignant pour les ressources propres et je ne vais pas répéter pour ne pas perdre du temps tout ce que j'ai dit et tout ce que ma collègue a dit sur ce point. Sur la question de l'entrée en vigueur du fonds de relance, ça dépend du Conseil. C'est une honte, mais il retarde la décision. Il aurait pu déjà décider. Et il faut savoir que la décision de ressources propres qui demande la ratification et exige des parlements nationaux prend entre 1 an à 2 ans. Nous sommes dans une situation différente. Ça exige exceptionnel. Ça exige que ça soit rapide. On me demande, c'est possible que ça soit en janvier? Je dirais oui. Ça dépend du Conseil, ça dépend de la ratification des parlements nationaux. C'est presque impossible, Mais c'est à cause de cela qu'on a besoin que ça soit vite. Ça doit être très très urgent. Et les citoyens de l'Union européenne doivent savoir que le Conseil a sur la table la possibilité de décision par unanimité de la décision ressources propres depuis le 16 de septembre. Il n'a pas encore décidé. Il est venu avec toutes les excuses. On a besoin de rule of law, c'est fait. On a besoin d'un accord sur le MFF, c'est fait. C'est fini les excuses. J'espère que ça soit rapide pour que l'argent arrive vite aux citoyens, arrive vite à l'économie.
Mr. Fernandez, there are some journalists asking for a brief English version of your same reply just now. Would that be possible?
What? In English?
In English.
Yes, okay. I will try. On resources decision, we have decided, we have given our opinion, the European Parliament, in 16th of September. The Council didn't decide until now. Why? And the own resources decision give the possibility, this is own resources decision, that give the possibility to the European Commission to go to the markets to borrow the 750 billion. And usually the time to the ratification by the national parliaments is more than an year, between an year and 2 years. Is urgent. And the citizens need to know that the Council are delaying this decision. The excuse of the agreement of the rule of law, it's done, doesn't exist. The agreement of the MFF is done, doesn't exist. And now they need to decide quickly because a vast majority of the national parliaments need to give the ratification. The question about the own resources decision and the agreement, not the own resources decision, the own resources and the agreement that we have is legally binding. Yes, is the interinstitutional agreement. We have put the important principle where we say we need a basket of own resources and this basket needs to be sufficient to the repayment of the debt, to avoid cuts in the programs and in the funds. We need to protect the citizens and the next generation. That's why we have asked also to put the repayment of the debt above the ceilings, because now it's 0.01% of the budget, but the repayment of the debt in the next MFF will be 10% of the budget. And it's not acceptable to cut the programs and the funds. That's why we have also declarations. We have also this principle that the Council agree, and I'm sure that we need to respect these principles. And I'm confident, and we have an excellent agreement, a historical agreement, where we have new own resources, where we have increased the amounts for European programs, and we maintain the national envelopes and we have for the first time also the recovery fund based in a guarantee of the European budget. The member states have the tools to fight the pandemic crisis and to give hope and future to all generations.
Thank you. Before we close, I have two short questions on the details of the agreement. We can take them together, I think. The first one is, what are the details of the budget reinforcements for Erasmus and Horizon? And the second question is, what is the calendar for the new own resources?
Yeah.
So for a quick answer, quick question, quick answer. For Erasmus, it's 2.2 billion. The increase of the financial envelope already existing for Erasmus, and already since 2021 budget.
But when we speak about the amounts, concrete numbers, this was the question, you have to add what has been agreed plus what we added to this. So when you say for Erasmus Plus, we added another 2.2 billion to what has been agreed. It's like the Horizon, and for Horizon, to what has been agreed by the Council, we decided to add, together with the Council, another 4 billion. 4 billion for Horizon, added to what has been agreed. Thank you.
Well, I think the most significant example is EU for Health, which stood at 1.7, and we added 3.4 billion.
Yeah.
So we tripled the program, which quite totally ununderstandable. The Council cut this program in this period of time with everything that's happening around us and that you are all, of course, unfortunately very familiar with. We tripled that program from 1.7 to 5.4. So it will be important, of course that will be important literally in the coming months for everything that needs to be done in order to fight this pandemic. And then I think there was still something on resources. Yeah.
The calendar of introduction of new own resources. The calendar is legally binding, and we have different steps. And for each new own resources, we have dates of proposals by the Commission, dates of vote by the Council, and dates of introduction. First step for ETS, CBAM, and digit levy. For these first steps, we will have proposal from the Commission by July 21. And the Commission take the commitment to speed up its work to take into consideration the failure of the negotiations at the OECD level for digital levy. So then deliberations in the Council by July 22 and 1st January 23, these three new own resources enter into force. Then we have the second and third steps with FTT and possible other new own resources. FTT. The work on enhanced cooperation has to be finalized by at the end of 2022. If there is a failure, the Commission will make a proposal by July 24, with deliberation in the Council by 25, and so as they enter into force by 26th. And then another step, but with the same dates for other new own resources, which could include a new CCCTB, for example.
Thank you very much. Before I close, I would just like to remind you that tomorrow there will be a press conference by the President Sassoli at 3:15 on the same topic, on the preliminary agreement on the MFF and the own resources. So tomorrow, 3:15, President Sassoli. Thanks a lot for coming and see you next time.